Okay, the schus of our learning should be a panacea for Shlema, for everyone that needs. We're holding Chav Testament Bays. We stopped at Massive Reb Zera. It's about, it's about 9 lines from the top. Massive Reb Zera. Okay, what we learned before is that if they shachted the carbon tamid before it was dawn, before they saw the light of the sun, the rays of the sun from the horizon coming up, so then they had to take it out to the base upsol. The carbon was possible. They shechted it too early. Then we said that the father of Rav Avin said that the same thing would apply to Malika Sa'if if they did the incision in the neck of the bird too early. It would also be, or they did it by night. They did it by night, it's possible. And if they did kmitza by night, it's possible. If he asked, kmitza by night, you just put it back in. The bird, I get the problem. I hear you. So, but the kmitza, you could just put it back in. The bird is dead. You can't redo that. Okay, so the Gemara says, well, it's not just redoing it, because it was already sanctified. When you put it in the klisharis, it becomes sanctified. When you do the kmitza on it, you're doing something. It says, you're doing it not in the time. We have a question, if you do something at night, it doesn't work. He said, yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work to be effective, to be valid, but it works enough to make it possible. So he said, Kaddish li possible. We accept you enough to make it invalidated. And now the Gemara says like this. Masav Reb Zera. Reb Zera is a question. Sider asalechem asabazichem acher Shabbos. The showbread is arranged on Shabbos. The new ones are put in, the old ones are taken out. Let's say maybe they took out the old ones, but the new ones they didn't put in yet. Something happened that wasn't ready. So they put it in on Sunday, not on Shabbos. The following Shabbos comes, it wasn't on the table for 7 days. Yeah, it wasn't on the table for 7 days. It's not good. What happens is, but then on Shabbos they offered up the bazichan. Those are the spoonfuls of the frankincense. That's sort of like the matir that allows you to eat the lechem apanim. They did it, but it wasn't for 7 days. So everything is possible. So keitzad yasa, what should you do? In such a case where they didn't have the bread ready for Shabbos, it says what you should do is yanichen al Shabbos haba. You have to leave it for an extra week. It's going to be there 13 days. Because you put it on Sunday, it'll be ready not this Shabbos, the next Shabbos. Why? Shafilu amda ala shulchan yom rab me mekach klum. It can stay longer. It just can't stay shorter. Okay. The problem is, the Gemara says, V'amai tikdash v'tifsel. If you put it on shlei bizmanai, if you're mesader it, you put it on in the wrong time. So if we say that when you do something in the wrong time, it becomes consecrated. So we should say that it becomes consecrated enough to make it possible. Yeah, the Gemara, it's interesting because the Gemara seemed to say that having it on longer doesn't make it possible. Now the Gemara is switching and saying having it on longer should make it possible if when you put it on, it becomes consecrated right away. Because we were thinking, maybe this is the pshat, that when you put it on later, when you put it on and you don't take it off until much later, we're thinking that, well, when the time for it to be effective comes, it will be effective. The Gemara said, 1 second. If you say that it becomes effective right away, right when you put it on, so then you have a problem right away. You have a problem because you put it on Shlei Bismani. The Seder Shlei Bismani was like 6 days early. Amar Rava says, Manda Kamaisa Shabbat Kamaisa. Reb Zera, that's asking the question, is asking a very good question. However, but you have to understand what you're asking against. Avod Ravavin was not making this opinion when he says, he wasn't making this up. He has a brisa that says this. So, yeah, what you're pointing out is that you have a source from another, I think it's a Mishnah, Siddur Salechem. You have a source from a Mishnah, and you're asking a question of Avod Ravavin. It's a good question, but it turns out that Avod Ravavin has a brisa that supports him. So, Rikasavar, and he holds, his brisa holds, Laila ein mechusar zman, Yoim mechusar zman. We're not going to say that it's a machlekes. We're going to answer it up. We're not going to say that he's wrong. We're going to explain it. So how are we going to explain it? That if you put it on several days earlier, then that doesn't count. But if you put it on a night earlier, then that counts. Now, when I say counts, that's a problem, because you put it on a time that it counts and you put it on too early. So it's considered mechusar. If you did it, let's say, I don't know, there's a problem of sitting in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, because maybe, or Simchas Torah, because maybe you're Bal Tosef, maybe you're adding to the days of sukkahs. But on Chanukah, I can sit in my sukkah. It's nothing. There's nothing there. It's not a continuation of the mitzvah. What do you do? Simchas Torah, you put a garbage can or something to show that it's not the mitzvah. So, but here, what we're saying is, if you put the bread on a week or even a day early, so then you didn't do anything, just storage. But if you put it on the night, or here we're talking about, if you did the kaimetz by night, so then it's still considered enough of the day that it will invalidate it, that you did something, but it was in the wrong time. Did it a day early, you did nothing. Yeah, but
if you put it on early, that means the previous shift is coming off early, right?
Right.
So you're ruining that one.
What happened was, if you're doing the bread, so let's assume that they took the bread off on Shabbos.
Which is proper.
Yeah.
Right.
If we wanted to put on the new bread, who burnt the challah? So, okay, we'll have to get it for tomorrow. They'll do it. So the bread went missing. So they put it on Sunday. They bake the bread, put it on Sunday. If they can't take it off on that Shabbos, they have to leave it. The problem is, but there was Siddur Shalei Bismanai. It was put on in the wrong time. So we're saying, no, putting it on the Sunday before, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, that's nothing. That doesn't count at all.
Did we learn that the old bread isn't taken off till the new bread is right there?
Yeah. It's machlekes Rabbanan or Rabbi Yossi about what the word tamid means.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was the Gemara Menachos. It's at the test, the Gemara over there about Limud Torah. If you have to learn tamid, you have to learn constantly, you have to learn consistently. And every day. Yeah, that was
Okay, thank you.
okay. So that's what we're doing. We're making a difference between a day before or the night before, or days before and the night before. The night before is still something. Okay. The Gemara asks an interesting question. Granted, days before is nothing. But days before, I mean, the way time works is that it's going to show up. It's going to be the night before at one point as well. In the night before, it's going to become possible. You can't skip that. So days before is nothing, but when it comes the night before, it becomes possible because it's the night before. And it's sitting on the shulchan. And it's Siddur Shlei Bismanai. Ravina shekadam v'silke. Ravina gives me, this is what's called the Daifik. We're talking about a case where you came Friday night by candlelighting time and you took the bread off. And then Shabbos morning, early in the morning, you put it back on. That's how it's going to work. It's a Daifik because we're talking about like you just have to put it on, and now you're telling me that it can only work in such a narrow case. They say no, you don't have to remove it Friday night and put it back on. It's like a monkey did it. You did it shlei bizman. It was like what we would say a robot. It was done not by anyone. It wasn't a real cedar because it was shlei bizman. So the fact that it was there Friday night doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything because it was put on automatically. It was on. It was there. Happened to be before, and before was nothing. It wasn't like someone did it. It was like a monkey did it. Okay. Question is, so when does it become cedar? If a monkey did it and you don't do anything, in the right time, does it become as if it's placed there? So if you notice, at the bottom of the Rashi, there's a parenthesis. The bottom of all the Rashis, there's like the second to the bottom line, to the bottom line. On Shabbos, the kohen has to come in and take them off and put it back on. It comes out, even according to Rav Ashi, you're doing the same thing. It's not really gaining. I thought Rav Ashi's teretz is great over Ravina. Ravina was, you have to take it off Friday night and put it back on. That's such a Daifik. Rav Ashi says, no, you just leave it there. There's no problem. Turns out, according to Rav Ashi, you have to come in also. And in the morning, just, and put it back in. Take it out and put it back in. However, I see Svara Machir Mleigarsinan. You see that on the side? It says that this Rashi is not necessarily the correct edition. Could be someone wrote it on the side, and somehow when they printed manuscripts, it gets edited, it gets put inside the text. Okay. We have a new Gemara, new piece. This is the rule in the Beis Hamikdash. The Mishnah said that anyone that went to the bathroom has to go to the mikveh if he had a bowel movement. If he urinated, then he just has to wash his hands and feet. That's what we learned from the Mishnah. This is the rule. Yeah, so the sinks in the bathrooms in the Beis Hamikdash, they would have mikveh, I guess, and they would have also a sink for the hands and feet. So they didn't wear shoes, so it wasn't complicated. We understand why you have to wash the feet. Person urinated, could be some of the drops of the urine got on his feet. Why does he have to wash his hands? Rabba says, from this we see that it's a mitzvah to make sure that there's no drops of urine on the clothing. So you have to wipe it off. You have to wipe it off. You have to wash your hands. That's the pshat. You have to wash your feet because it drops on the feet, and you have to wash your hands because you have to wipe off the clothing if it drips on the clothing. Messiah Leila Rabami, this supports Rabami. Damar Rabami, Yasaladim, Shietza Ben Yitzaytza, Shal Gabi Ragam, Neshnir Kukrushav, Balmetzi Lazal Banam Shem Mamzerim. We had this, I forget where, maybe in Nida or something. I'm not seeing where it's being quoted from. We had this before. We had this Gemara. Rabami says that a person should not go out with with drops of urine on his feet, because it looks like he's a Khrushchevka. I don't know the translation of Khrushchevka, but it means that something was damaged in his organ, and he wouldn't be able to have children. So the urine just drips out. And if that's the case, then how does he have children walking around? It must be from some other man. And that means that they're mamzerim. So a person has to make sure that no one claims that his children are mamzerim. So he has to make sure that his pants are clean. No one talks Lashon Hara. What do they say? I don't say Lashon Hara, but I'll tell you who does. Okay. Amar Rav Papa says, Tzaya, it's a new thing. Tzaya b'mkaima asalikas kriyashma. If someone didn't clean himself properly after going to the bathroom, and he has excrement on his body, it's on his body in the place where it comes out, on the rectum. So you're not allowed to recite Shema. You have to be clean. So yeah, some of there's what's it called? There's a thing, a bidet. I think it spritzes water instead of they attach it to the toilet or something. So someone was selling them. So he went around the Rabbanim to get letters that it makes you cleaner, so you should be able to recite Shema. As encourage people to buy it. So okay. So if someone is not perfectly clean, he should not recite Shema. So Hechidami. If it's clear that he's dirty, if you can see the excrement on his body, pshita, then of course you're not supposed to recite the Shema. And if you can't see that he's dirty, so lein it in the Torah Malachi Asharis. The Gemara is suggesting here that even if he has inside his body in an area that you can't see it, so then that would be also prohibited to recite the Shema. But 1 second, what is he, an angel? That he doesn't have anything in his body? Like the angels don't eat, but humans eat. There's always something going on. You can't say that you can never recite Shema. Says leitzricha. No, we're talking about something on the border here. The Yoshev Veneris. If while he's sitting, then it would be visible if he wouldn't be dressed. I made Veneris, but if he's standing, it's not visible. Okay, so it's somewhere inside, somewhat depends if he's sitting or standing. So then he's not allowed to recite the Shema. In other words, the person has to be clean before he davens, before he says Shema. Ma'ishna mitzay al basari. The Gemara asks 1 second. If someone has excrement on his body, but not in the area where it goes to the bathroom, somewhere else, I don't know, changing diapers, whatever. You got dirty from something. The itmar tzay al basara yosha yada besakise. If someone didn't actually walk into the bathroom, but put their hand in the bathroom, put their hand in through a hole, maybe they put their hand in to turn off the light or something like that. So do they have to wash their hands? The hand went in, or if they have somewhere tzaya on their body, not where they're going to the bathroom area. Rav Huna Amar Mutalikus Kriyash. Rav Huna says you don't have to recite. You're allowed to recite Shema. You don't have to wash. Rav Chizda Amar Asur Likris Kriyashma. Rav Chizda says that it's asur. I remember if there's a machlekes Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. I think Rav Chizda is a Talmud of Rav Huna. But I think for some reason the halacha is like Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda says asur likris kriyashma. I don't have a note here though. I don't have like the star in the right place to tell me anything. Okay, so what we're asking a question here. Actually, Rashi says that the question is according to both Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. We're asking, what's the difference if someone went to the bathroom and he didn't clean himself then he's not allowed to recite Shema. And over here, if he has excrement on him, according to Rav Huna, he is allowed to recite Shema. So that would be a question. But why is it a question according to Rav Chizda? Rav Chizda says that it's usher, but not because of the smell or the dirt. It's because your whole body needs to be clean, but it's not an issue of smell. So Rav Papa says because of the smell, because of the dirt. And Rav Chizda says you're not allowed to because of a different reason. Because that your whole body should be clean to recite the Shema. So, but it's not because of the smell. So it's in a way it's a question on according to both of them. Rav Papa is much stricter, and so the Gemara says for some reason, if you went to the bathroom, then the smell is much worse. I guess because it wasn't exposed to the air. It's right there on his area that he just went to the bathroom. He didn't clean it up. It wasn't exposed to the air. When it gets exposed to the air, then it doesn't smell as much. So that's why the other opinions are coming in saying that if tzaya al b'sarai somewhere else on the body from changing diapers or whatever, so that doesn't smell. The babies don't smell as much anyway. But it's because of the exposure to the air. Depends on which location it is.
I know why we don't eat before we eat.
Why we don't eat? Oh, well, you don't know what we're gonna be learning. Okay. Okay. Tanur Rabbanan. Start in the Brisa. Halacha Besuda. There's a halacha that said regarding a meal. One slight detail. You're supposed to wash your hands after you use the bathroom. But there's a slight nuance here that when you're in the middle of a meal and you go to the bathroom, there's one slight difference. Adam yetzi lahashtin mayim. The person goes out to urinate. Neitel yada yachas nechnas. He has to wash one hand when he comes back in. Diberim chaveir v'hiflik. This just means that he was mesiach das. He was busy. He was talking, schmoozing, whatever. The person's distracted. So he doesn't know what he touched, what his hands did. So then neitel shtei yada v'nechnas. He has to wash two hands before he eats. He has to make a whole commotion that he's washing. What he does is, he doesn't wash outside. Yeah, I washed in the bathroom. No, he doesn't do that. He has to come inside and wash in front of everyone. And then he has to take the kvart and tell everyone, I'm finished washing. Anyone else need to wash their hands? So he passes like the shissel around. Anyone need to wash? So that way everyone knows that he cleaned his hands. Okay. So Amar Rav Chizda Rav Chizda says this is only a concern that someone may think that you didn't wash your hands. That's only a concern when it comes to drinking. Why? Because to drinking, you're touching the cup, you're not touching the food. Someone can say, well, I don't have to touch. I didn't touch anything. It's the cup. So it's not a problem if my hands are there. So for that, you have to make sure that you wash your hands in front of other people. No one should suspect you, that you're that lenient about hygiene. Everyone will know that he's careful about that he's that particular, finicky, that would spoil his appetite when it comes to food. He doesn't have to wash in front of everyone if he's coming back to eat. Now, the way that would work was that they would eat a meal, and after the meal, they would sit around and continue drinking. It would be like tea after the meal. They would sit for a while and drink. Those days it was wine. But, okay. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, "Vana afilu lishtis nami made the yediyah danina daite." By me, or maybe by us, by me, even for drinking, I don't have to wash my hands in front of everyone. Everyone knows that we're particular about that. That would make us grossed out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, those signs in the restaurants, bathrooms that the employees need to wash their hands. The real turn-off to the customers. You have to say that, then I don't know if I want to eat here. Yeah.
How is Rob not from by I'm so sure that everyone knows that it's going to make it only do around the advertising?
Yeah. He probably was the type of person that wore gloves. You know, like
Maybe something.
you know, it's very interesting. People tell me that the Rebbe was very careful about what he touched. On the railing on the banister, he would like use his sleeve and he would something. They told me, then they said, but if someone would shake the Rebbe's hand, you didn't notice any sort of yeah, it was not saying it was so how was it? There were other things also. Other things that if you look now, this person told me, so he was very careful with what he touched. Okay. The germ theory. The Mishnah, new Mishnah. Ein adam nichnas la'azara. The Mishnah says la'avayda afilu tar ad sheyitbal. A person should not go into the azara to do the service until he goes to the mikvah. Rashi says when it says to do service, it's lav dafka. Because anyone that goes into the azara needs to go to the mikvah. It doesn't just mean that he's going to do work. Any visit into the azara, you needed to go to the mikvah. Chamish tfilas, basara kedushin, tevel kain gadol mekadosh b'yayim. The Kohen Gadol went to the mikvah 5 times, and he was mekadosh his hands and feet. That means he washed his hands and feet 10 times. Every time he went to the mikvah, he washed his hands first, before and after. So 5 mikvahs means 10 washing hands and feet. All of them were done in the holies, in the Beis HaParva. That was the room where the mikvah was. On the roof of Beis HaParva, there was a mikvah. They got the water to go up to the roof. And that was in the holies. That was in the holy area. However, the first mikvah was not necessarily a Yom Kippur mikvah. It was because he was going to do any service with the carbon tamid shel shachar. And so that he didn't have to do in the Beis HaMikdash proper, in the Azara proper. He could do that outside as well. Parsus sudden shel butz beini lebeina am. I guess the mikvah was exposed, was open. So they would have to hang up a curtain. They would hang up a linen curtain so that he should be able to go to the mikvah. It sounds like there's no problem of hanging up a curtain on Yom Kippur. Yeah, I guess ayal arai, right? Not a problem. Unless maybe it means that they've hung it up beforehand. It doesn't tell us. Shaluas ben Dama, Shaluas ben Zaima, Tvila Zulama. They asked Ben Zaima, why does he have to go to the mikveh in the morning? Amalahem, he responds like this. Ma mishana mikaydish lekaydish mi makam shanish kars la makam shanish kars time tvila. Regarding the mikvahs on Yom Kippur, it says in the Psukim that he needs to clean his clothes or whatever to go to the mikvah. So that's going from one service to another service. So if every time he changes service, he goes from he puts on the linen clothes to go into the Kodesh HaKodashim, he has to go to the mikvah. He was right before in the Azara, so he's going from one thing to another, and it's all holy, and you have to go to the mikvah. So going from Hamashana Michola Kodesh and Makam Sheinu Aniskars to Makam Shaniskars in a din shatan tefillah. If you're going from something that's mundane to holy, for sure you need to for sure you need to go to the mikveh. Someone goes to the mikveh in the morning, and then they go to daven. Then they go to the oil later on. Do they go to the mikveh again before the oil, or was that enough? I don't know. I guess it depends. You do whatever you want. But there is room to discuss it, based on this. That when you go from one thing to another, you have to go to the mikveh. In Chassidus, it talks about in each level of Gan Eden, they had to be Taivel in Nahar Dinar, the river there. So if to go from one level of holiness to another, you have to go to the mikveh. For sure, when you come into the holiness, you have to go to the mikveh. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Srach Tefillah Yisum. This is Srach Tefillah. It's a secondary sort of Tefillah. This is not a real mikveh, what's happening here. This is just Kadesh Yizkar Tuma Yeshana Shabiyadav Yifresh. Did I say that correctly? Yeshana, right? This is so that he should remember, he should put his mind to see if when he goes to the mikveh, he's going to think about, why am I going to the mikveh? Maybe there's a tumah, maybe there's something. Just to give it a little thought, to concentrate on it. Certain things we do that just the fact that we're doing it makes us think about it. What would this be? You write a pan Erev Rosh Hashanah or something. So even if you don't send it in or whatever, but you're thinking about things. So here he's going to the mikveh, he's thinking about things. Did he come in contact with anything that was tummy? Now, if he did come in contact with something that was tummy, then he would have to. It depends. If it was a sheretz or something, then he would have to wait one day before he went in because he would need Hereb Shemesh. If it would be Tumas Mace, then we have to wait 7 days together with the Paraduma. So all we're doing is we're making him concentrate. Did anything occur? Okay, but it's not a real mikvah. But Micah Miflgi, the Gemara says, what's the machlekes here between Ben Zayma and Rabbi Yehuda? So, ba'achulei avoda kamiflgi. It has to do with if the service becomes desecrated, becomes spoiled, mundane. In other words, if you did the service without going to the mikveh, what happens then? So, according to Ben Zayma, according to Ben Zayma, you have a biblical law that you need to go to the mikveh. You didn't. The avodah is puzzle. Why is it a biblical law? Well, I learn a kal v'chomer from the avodah on Yom Kippur. That's very clear. That's a real svara that comes from the Torah. However, Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, was just like a precaution. It was just a secondary sort of thing. So then it doesn't disturb the avodah. Yeah, I remember some fella showed up when I was working in the Shul Bal Harbor. They have a lot of guests over there. Some guy shows up and he's schmoozing with me. Anyway, I don't know how we got into this conversation. Oh, yeah, he was a teacher in Tervadas. He was a Maggid Shir in Tervadas. And he tells me that he starts every Zman, he starts off with the Sikha of the Rebbe about Lech Lecha Me'artzecha, that you have to leave all of your Hegela and all of your Regilas and everything that you used to. Okay, so somehow we started talking about Miftzayim. Started talking about if you put tefillin on someone that didn't wash Nagelwasser, is that acceptable? So he pulls out a Gemara Yoma and he's showing me, I think he was showing me this Gemara here. I didn't, I wasn't familiar with it then, but I remember what the page, yeah. Anyway, he was very familiar. It was like looking in Taisvis. And so, anyway, I don't know the answer to the question, but I assume that it's not a problem because we do that. We put tefillin on people. We don't walk around with a Poland spring water every hill and wash them first.
It wasn't just him. This was the big deal, the big taina against the Lubavitcher Rebbe. of
Oh,
that
I didn't
world.
realize it was Megalvasser. I thought it was concentration
It was,
because I only saw the response from the Rebbe. They claim to the Rebbe that they're going to have bad thoughts in the tefillin. The Rebbe responds that probably someone that only puts on tefillin once in his life, for the first time in his life, is not going to be thinking about this is like he's going to be thinking about the tefillin. It's the first time he's doing it.
I remember in the early years reading this Taina in the Jewish press.
Oh, so interesting. Uh-huh.
Wasn't there reports that if somebody like fired back on the guy and said, okay, you go watch that, you didn't make a lot certain, I'll put on this film.
Uh-huh.
You go in front of me, you'll watch that happen, and I'll put on this film.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. What about in the bakery? You go into the bakery. Well, they wear gloves, so it's probably not a problem. But if they hand you the bread and they didn't wash Nagelwasser, what about that?
And it wasn't just people against the Rebbe. There were Kabadnikim who wouldn't shake the hand of a Baal Tshuva because you hadn't been to the mikveh.
Oh.
Presumably you hadn't been to the mikveh. They didn't know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It was a different world.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Now the Gemara says, okay, so apparently to Ben Zayma, this is very serious. If you didn't go to the mikveh, you spoiled the Avaida. So Ben Zayma mimachel, does it really spoil the Avaida? Does it desecrate the Avaida? But Tanya, kein gadol shloi taval, like kiddush ben beged lebeged, ben Avaida l'Avaida, Avaida sikshera. Have a brisa that says it's fine. Echad kein gadol, v'echad kein hedish, like kiddush yad v'raglav shachris, v'avad Avaida, Avaida sipsula. Washing the hands is different than the mikveh. You have to wash your hands. If you don't wash your hands, then the Avaida is puzzle. But if you didn't go to the mikveh, so that's not puzzle. So what are you telling me that for Ben Zayma it's going to be puzzle? It doesn't seem like it's puzzle. Umar says, let's switch the machlaikas. We thought the machlaikas was if the Avaida is puzzle. Ella, we're retracting from what we said before. We're talking about if he neglected a positive command. Ben Zayma koi basei, Rabbi Yehuda koi basei. Rabbi Yehuda says there's no asay over there. There's no mitzvah asay to go to the mikveh before you walk into the temple. If you're tamei, you have to go to the mikveh. If you're not, then it's fine. Gemara says, "Umi yislei." I want to point out there's a Taisis Yishanim on mitzvah l'shafshif brings Rabbeinu Tam. There's like a very unclear area about how to wash your hands after the bathroom. I mean, after you have to use a cup and what about before tefillah? All of those, and it's this Taisis Yishanim like goes through those concepts if you want to take a look. Okay, so. Now the Gemara says, does Rabbi Yehuda really hold that you have to go to the mikveh because you have to think about does Rabbi Yehuda hold that you have to go to the mikveh at all? So, but we have a brisa that says differently. Mitzayra, Tayvel va'imid b'shai nikanar. You see, the Mitzayra needs to he waited 7 days and with the ceremony that was performed on those days, but then on the 8th day he has to bring his sacrifices, and the sacrifices he has to put his thumbs in and they put the blood on his thumbs. So before he goes in on the 8th day, even though he went to the mikvah on the 7th day and then he has Herav Shemesh, but on the 8th day when he's bringing his karbanos he has to go to the mikvah beforehand. And he's toivel va'imid b'shar nikon. He stands by the gate. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ain't tzarich tefillah. He doesn't need to go to the mikveh. Shekvar tavel mi'erev. He already went to the mikveh yesterday. What are you telling me that Rabbi Yehuda holds you always have to go to the mikveh before you go in, just because you have to think about was there any tumah there? Over here he says you don't have to. It says ahu k'datani time shekvar tavel mi'erev. No, over there it's different because it was just such a short interim between the last mikveh and now. You don't have to, but other times you probably do have to go to the mikveh. The Gemara says that is such a good answer. The karila my karila. What was the person thinking when he asked the question? Actually, there was a different question that was going on, and this is just like there was another question coming. So this was, I guess, how to start this off. What was the other question? Why was the Lishkas HaMitzrayim? There was a chamber that was called Lishkas HaMitzrayim. Why was it called Lishkas HaMitzrayim? The Mitzrayim would go to the mikveh there. Rabbi Yudaimer, not only the Mitzrayim would go to the mikveh, but everyone would go to the mikveh. This is in the outer courtyard. It's in the Ezra Nashim. So you would go to the mikveh before you put your thumbs in. But Rabbi Yehuda says, not only Mitzrayim would go to the mikveh, but everyone would go. That not only tells me, the Bilvad tells me that the Mitzrayim would go to the mikveh. Before he says he doesn't go to the mikveh, because he already went before on the 7th day. So it's a contradiction. So, like Kasha, when does he say that he goes to the mikveh? That's because yesterday he forgot to go to the mikveh. So that's why today he has to go to the mikveh. The Gemara said, 1 second. If yesterday he didn't go to the mikveh, we have a bigger problem because Herav Shemesh Bai, you have to go to the mikveh before sunset, and then sunset finishes the impurity. There's like a 2-step process there. You go to the mikveh and then you wait for sunset. But if he's going to go to the mikveh today, then he has to wait for sunset today, and then he can only bring the karbanos tomorrow. So it can't be that that's a bad answer. You're right. He had to go to the mikveh yesterday. But it depends if his mind, if he lost the concentration. How would he lose concentration? I don't know. Maybe he got drunk. He couldn't wait for the party. He's back from his leprosy. He threw a party and he doesn't know what he touched. I don't know. Yeah, they have to be very careful, very aware. The Gemara says, 1 second. Then maybe he really became Tameh. Maybe he touched, he doesn't know what he touched. Then he should have to have the sprinkling of the paraduma. Maybe he came in contact with a corpse. Maybe in his state of not awareness, he walked into the hospital, to the morgue area or something. The Amar of the Stoiber, Masan Amar of Yechanan, Hisech Das, Tarachazar Shlishi Shvi. You hear what's going on? In those days, if you Mesiach Das, if you didn't know, you didn't have full awareness, yeah, you needed the paraduma sprinkling before you went into the Beis Hamikdash. We can't say that it was Mesiach Das. You have to have intention what you're doing when you went to the mikveh. If yesterday when he went to the mikveh before nightfall, he also had intention that this mikveh is going to cover also tomorrow. This is our answer to you went to the mikveh before Shachris. Later on, you're going to the aisle. If you had intention that it would cover that, then good. It's very interesting that the das of the mikveh plays a part in the mikveh. What you're going to the mikveh for actually plays a part in this. Viba Yisema, another teretz. Taneyi lay mitzrayim amro elakal adam. This is a cute teretz. Drop the word bilvad. Rabbi Yehuda says, we're not talking about Mitzrayim. It was called, it wasn't Mitzrayim. It was everyone else would go there. I mean, he's not explaining why it's called Lishkas and Mitzrayim. But whatever the case is, we don't have a question anymore on a contradiction Rabbi Yehuda, because Mitzrayim went to the mikvah already yesterday. Ravina Amar, Rabbi Yehuda le'devreim de Rabbanan kamar lahu. Rabbi Yehuda is talking to the Rabbanan. He's saying like this: according to me, the Mitzrayim doesn't need to go to the mikveh because he went yesterday, and going into the Beis Hamikdash doesn't require tefillah. Easy. I think easy means like at least. But according to you, or Mia says at least, easy is like if so or if so. I don't know what it means. It's like a filler type of word. So admit to me at least, Rabbi Yehuda is saying them, the loy mitzvah and bavad amar lekol adam, that it's not only a mitzvah that needs to go to the mikvah, but it would be everyone needs to go to the mikvah. According to you, that you hold that you need to go to the mikvah before you come into the Beis Hamikdash or put your hand into the Beis Hamikdash, thumbs in. So it's not just the mitzvah; it would be everyone. However, so why did the Rabbanan just say that was a mikvah for the mitzvah? Rabbanan mitzvah dayish betuma, kol adam lo dayish betuma. The Rabbanan hold, not for Ben Zoma. Ben Zoma holds that everyone needs to go to the mikvah. But the Rabbanan over here that are arguing with Rabbi Yehuda, they would say that the mitzvah was so accustomed to being tamei that he didn't care about other things that are tamei. You're like when you're let's say you're gardening or something, your hands are in the dirt and this, you don't care to pick up garbage like that. But if you pick it up, you have to wash your hands anyway. So the mitzvah is tamei. So he's so accustomed to being around tamei that he's not even aware of it. So we're afraid that even though yesterday he went to the mikvah, we're afraid that he's dayish, he's accustomed to doing that. We're afraid that he became tummy again this morning, so he has to go to the mikvah. But other people, they don't have to go to the mikvah. Okay, let's leave the Gemara right here.